it's one of those issues that is growing in terms of what its definition is all of the time. So you've got, from an everyday thing which is appalling, child sex abuse, which is going on an international scale. You've got cybercrime against individual companies, potentially cyber attacks on critical national infrastructure, and of course you've got the promotion and execution of terrorist acts via various electronic means. So it's something that I think we're really struggling at the moment to define, and that's why this initiative is so useful. I think if you look at the level of attacks and where they're coming from, the critical national infrastructure, if they can get into the system enough to, and we've seen it happen elsewhere in the world, in the Ukraine, for example, the ability to disrupt our daily life, our commerce, our trade, our industry, our whole systems of government is enormous. And I think, we've got fairly robust systems in place, but you can't be complacent about it. Sooner or later, someone will get through because the level of attacks every day is so great. I think there are two clear roles. The first one is in terms of our own domestic legislation. And we've got legislation going through the House of Commons at the moment about regulatory powers. And that's important that we get the legislative framework right. I think the other role is, and I sit on the Intelligence and Security Committee, is in looking at the way things operate and whether or not the agencies responsible are doing the job in the way that is necessary, and also in a way that is consistent with all of the expectations the public have about their own privacy on the one hand, and their own security on the other. So I think there's a massive role for parliamentarians, and it's one we're only just beginning to get to grips with. I think two things immediately spring to mind, arising out of the work that we've done so far in the workshop. The first one is the need for international consistency of approach. And what we know is that there are a lot of initiatives underway on that, but at the moment there aren't, I don't think, the institutions necessarily in place to enforce and codify what needs to be done. And the second thing I've learned, I think, is that what's going on elsewhere within the Commonwealth, for example, is of interest to us, just as what's going on in the UK is of interest to the rest of the Commonwealth. And that sharing experience is, I think, invaluable.